Hi there.
How are you?
Hey. Good, thank you.
That's good.
Hi, Viviana.
Hi there. People call me Viv or Vivian.
Hi, Viv.
Okay.
Yeah, hi. My mother used to call me Viviana, but
Yeah, I'm Pam, but I only get Pamela when I'm in trouble.
yeah. Okay. Hi, Pam. Not sure.
G'day.
Your name is underneath.
Hi, Damien. How are you?
Good, thanks, guys. Good to meet you. I'm just driving, so I'll just do the audio side of things. But yeah, good to join.
Hi, Damien.
And Hamad and Sandra, hello.
Yeah, we're here just sorting out the visuals.
No worries.
Yep. G'day, team.
G'day.
How you doing?
Simo?
All right. Well, look, I think we probably will have a small group. Hey, Natalie, how are you?
Hey, Natalie.
We probably will have a bit of a small group tonight. So I'll probably kick off, and I need to get off at 7 sharp to take over parenting duties. So yeah, if everybody doesn't mind, I might just kick things off. I'm recording this, and I'll send this link out for you to watch the recording again, and also share it with anybody else that isn't here today. But yeah, look, my name's Tim Riley. I'm from Property Collectives, and we've got a few of the joint ventures from Brougham Street here tonight, which is great. I do have some slides and a bit of a presentation to run through, but hopefully that takes maybe, I don't know, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, and then we can have some decent sort of time at the end for questions. Oh, my video is not on. Oh, that's weird. Sorry. Thanks.
Tim, I just want to apologise in advance. I'll be heading off at 6, but I look forward to watching the rest of the replay and having more interaction later on.
No worries. No worries. And just for Ross and Pam and Alistair's benefit, Damien's been really keen to come on site and check it out, but unfortunately, I think you can't. You've got something else on this Sunday. So
yeah, that's right. I'm doing the Tony Robbins course this Sunday.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we'll have to organise another time for Damien. So yeah, so look, I do have some slides to go through, so I'll just share them in a second, but yeah, please feel free to jump in and ask questions sort of as we work through it. I find these sessions are always a bit better if they're interactive, so don't feel like you need to hold off right to the end to ask questions. So yeah, I might get into it. Let me just share my screen.
Visual sound.
So tonight we'll do some introductions, talk a bit about the vision for the project and the project pillars that the group has worked up. I'll explain a bit about the building group model that we're using to develop the property. We then talk through the property itself. Got quite a few photos of the property if you haven't had a chance to sort of see it yet. And then we'll touch on program. We do have reference design, like a concept design to take you through, talk a bit about the numbers and then next steps. So first introductions is really around the current members of the co-housing group. So this photo was taken, I don't know, about six to 8 weeks ago, maybe, or maybe a bit.
Who knows? Yeah.
At that point, we had 11 members of the group. We've now got 13, so we've grown a little bit. over the sort of Christmas New Year's period. And we had a bit of an open day, and maybe if I throw to maybe Alistair or Pam or Ross to maybe just introduce yourself and maybe say a few words about, you know, why Brougham Street and why co-housing.
Sure.
Hi there, I'm Pam. I'm the mother of Simon, who's in that group. Simon and Ben were the guys who initially started this off years ago, and they've always wanted to get involved in co-housing. They came out to see us just to see Simon came out to see us, to see what we thought, to inform us, and I was so enthusiastic. He was very surprised. But we've got a couple of intergenerational families involved in this with, so there's Ross and I and Simon, our son. We've got Sue and Ben, her son, and Ben's brothers coming into it. And I just love the idea of the community. And as it's grown, it's just got more and more exciting because we just got the best bunch of people and the best block of land. And the best developer too there. So that's our story.
Okay. So I think Pam speaks for me as well. It's just, yeah, it is. We are excited, and it's we've just in a design process at the moment, and we just finished our first face-to-face non-Zoom workshop on design, and that was lovely having everybody, most of us together in the same room. Some of us are interstate, and actually sharing ideas face to face. We spent 2 days on that, and that was a really great process. So yeah, it's a good group of people and a good project. Lots of work to do still, but you know, looking forward to it. And Alistair.
All right, so I'm Alistair. I'm joining with Nikki, who's hard at work at the moment.
Hey, Nick.
I was drawn to this a couple of reasons. I mean, I like the intergenerational idea of living not just with a group of people who are all at a very similar life stage. I think that's a bit not the best way of doing things. Also, from a sort of property perspective, I've always had a bit of a suspicion of the property market and property developers and that sort of stuff. No offense, Tim, but you know, being involved in the process was something that appealed to me as well. It seems like a fairly good way of doing it. And I've lived in Sweden for quite a while, and they're very good at sort of using smaller spaces and using sort of smart design and sharing things. So those are things that have sort of drawn me into the project. And initially from knowing Ben, who's sort of one of the first people to give me a call about it, what would be almost a couple of years ago now. So yeah, that's me and us, and yeah, it's a very interesting time. There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment.
Yeah,
to get done. So it's a slightly hectic period of time for this project, but it's going well.
Yeah, thanks, Alistair. Yeah, it is. The start of every project is super busy, you know, and I think from my perspective, this group's quite remarkable in that this project really came together through COVID, you know, and if I sort of look back on the last 6 to 12 months, you know, the group's, from my perspective, been really quite remarkable in how it's banded together and come together around what is, you know, a beautiful property to work together to try and realize this shared vision, you know. So it's a busy phase because we're settling on the land at the end of the month. We're also in the final stages of working through a design brief, particularly around the common areas and how the group wants to what they want to do with those common areas. So it is a busy time. but you know, the first 6 to 9 months of any project's really busy because there's just lots to do because the rocket ship's taking off effectively, you know. So yeah, so thanks guys. I might just reshare this presentation. Yeah, just bear with me a second. Can everybody see that screen?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So look, this is another photo of the members of the group. I quite like this photo because it's the meeting we had to vote on whether to proceed to purchase the property. And I think Simon took the opportunity without people's consent to take this photo of everybody voting that they wanted to go ahead and purchase the property. So there's a few people in here that weren't on that previous photo just because they're interstate. But yeah, that's the group at the moment.
Give an idea, Tim, of just how interstate we are. Like Voter is in America at the moment. Sue's in Adelaide, which is where she lives. Alistair's just come back from New Zealand. And
Caroline's in Canberra.
Caroline's there, and Teresa, particularly at that period, it was always very interesting seeing where she was going to call in from because she was out camping and she was in Queensland and all around Australia, so she'd call into a local something or other and find a line. So yeah, it's an interesting photograph, and it's a group of that are not all located in Victoria at the moment.
So then the other introductions is just a brief introduction around, I suppose, myself and the Property Collectives team. So I'll talk through the model and how it works in the next few slides, but this joint venture approach we're using for Brougham Street is it's pretty much the same structure that we've used for 9 other projects since 2010, and across 10 projects, including Brougham Street, there's sort of 80 homes that we've been helping develop over the last 10 years. And the Property Collectives team is, you know, myself, there's been business partner Tim Richardson, who's at the top there with glasses. We've also got Chris Adams, John Lim, and Pete. And there's a few other people that aren't on this image, James Mansour and Craig Westblade. So Property Collectives is, I suppose, a building group model or a joint venture model that we've been working on over the last decade. But increasingly, it's also a group of property development professionals, and we all work together on the collective model projects, but also other projects as well. So across that sort of wider group, we've got expertise in capital and debt markets, urban design, asset management, contract management, and we're also providing advisory services to state government, the Office of the Victorian Government Architect, community housing providers like Villa Maria Catholic Homes, and also last year we were awarded a affordable housing grant from the Lord Mayor's Charitable Foundation. So we're doing a different joint venture with a church in High Street and looking to partner them up with a community housing provider to do a social housing project there. So there's a range of things we're doing. In terms of the vision and the pillars, probably towards the middle or third quarter of last year, when the group was really coming into formation, the members of the group at that point worked through what their core vision and pillars were, and it all boiled down to sort of 4 key points. The first one was to create a strong co-housing community. The second one was to achieve exemplar sustainability outcomes. The third one was to accommodate the needs of the members or the residents. And the fourth one was about creating value and affordability. And what the group was meaning when it was talking about creating a strong co-housing community was really looking at creating an intergenerational sorry, I'll just let a couple of people in here. Creating an intergenerational community. So bringing together singles, families and elders. Running a participatory design process with genuine and authentic participation. Having extensive common facilities for all of the members of the group to enjoy. And through the design, facilitating interactions to achieve village-like living. In terms of the sustainability outcomes, the goal really is to have minimal impact on the environment, to build some high-performance buildings, so targeting a minimum 7 stars NAFA's rating. And there's an aspiration to aim for net zero. In terms of accommodating the needs of members and residents, this really is about trying to create a diverse community that caters for people in all stages of life. And also allowing people to customise their homes. So obviously one of the big benefits with this model is being able to generate some economies of scale through sort of bulk purchasing and buying power, but at the same time, is that Helen's dog? I think it's Helen's dog. We've heard that dog before. At the same time, everybody wants to have that ability to customize their own home, you know. So, and the process we run allows people to do that and strike that balance. And
could I ask a question about the
Yep.
Yeah, the sustainability outcomes pretty close to my heart and top of my sort of personal and professional values. Everyone aims for net zero. Is there an aim to achieve? Is it going to achieve net zero? Is that sort of, is there a goal around achieving it, or is it like we want that aspiration? Like, what's the level of
commitment? Yeah. We haven't, the group, to be honest, hasn't got to that level of detail yet. I think that's part of the process that we're going to go on, is understanding exactly what that means, and what trade-offs, you know, need to be made along the way to achieve that. So it is at the moment, I'd say, an aspiration, and you know, it's a constant tension throughout any project, because you know, this fourth point here around creating value and affordability, you know, there's a real desire in the group to hold to the budget that we've set for the project, and we think that budget will allow us to deliver, for example, you know, high performance buildings around that 7 stars. Now, how we then go beyond that to aim for net zero, you know, is going to be part of the process. So yeah, so on this last point around creating value and affordability, you know, the key points around that for the group were delivering value beyond financial objectives, but respecting economic constraints. And yeah, to my last point, you know, that is always a tension in projects. You know, we do want to run the project and be aiming to achieve the budget objectives that we've set ourselves. But I suppose one of the benefits of this sort of model is that you know, if the group through the process sort of sees value in adjusting that budget to, you know, achieve some objectives that, you know, the group really wants to achieve, then it is within the group's, you know, prerogative to do that, you know, because the group remains in control ultimately. And the second point is that as part of this project, we are keen to create more affordable pathways to ownership, and we are investigating whether a shared equity approach might work for a couple of positions in the project.
Yep.
Did Alistair or Ross or Pam, did you want to sort of add anything around these pillars before I move on?
I'll just make the comment that it's really interesting hearing about, you know, hearing Tim cover this, because we're actually living this at the moment, and it's a whole different thing to have aspirations and then actually to work through the practical implications of achieving them, and which we are doing. Like, there's a lot of pressure within the group for net zero, but we're not at the point where we're making those decisions yet. But yeah, it's just a whole process of, you sort of think all of these wonderful things are going to happen, and then as you go through design and finance and things like that, you've got to jettison a few things and include a few things, and it's a very interesting process, and it really strengthens the group. But that's kind of where we are at the moment, and where we'll be for probably the next several months, I would think. Yeah, so it's happening. All those things are happening.
Thanks, Ross. So look, the next few slides are about the model, and really this approach, this joint venture approach, allows us to deliver what we think are better homes and do it more affordably by enabling people to boost their collective buying power. So there's a few ways that the model does that. It is a co-development model. So if you do get involved, you're becoming an owner of the land, but then also you're co-developing this project with all the other members. And because you're doing that, you are internalizing the developer margins yourself. So, you know, the forecast we have at the moment is that the dwellings will be worth around 17% more than what everybody's going to be paying for them. And, you know, this model allows people to pay a cost price, you know, for their homes. So that profit that a speculative developer would be making is a saving to you, right? A direct saving to you under this model. And that's a big part of obviously where the savings come from. Another saving is that, you know, there's no real estate agents involved here. So, you know, we're not paying an agent sales or marketing commissions. And it is a very tax efficient structure. So people that come on board before we settle on the land will share the cost of the stamp duty on the land. But then when the project's finished and those individual dwellings are then moved out of the co-housing ownership to the individual's ownership, then there's no stamp duty on that transfer, and there's no capital gains tax. So it's quite a tax efficient structure. In terms of at a super high level how the model works, the main difference with this model to a normal speculative model is that before we even have bought a piece of land, there's a lot of work in bringing together a like-minded group of people who are willing to pool their financial resources to buy the land and then fund the development. So this process for this group kind of took pretty much all of 2020. I think we started, we really kicked off in sort of December 2019. In December 2020, and then all through 2021, we were starting to form up the group and starting to look for land. So as I said, we've got 13 joint venturers on board, and we're planning to build 21 dwellings. And those 13 joint venturers have come together, and they're pooling their resources to buy the land, and we'll do that at the end of this month. And then we work together, collectively to refine everybody's individual needs and the collective's needs. And then the group is really in control of the design and then the build of their own project through that planning permit phase, through construction funding, and then through the build. And then the final stage is where everybody receives a home that's customised to their needs at cost. And we always aim for that to be around 15% less than what the market value is. So really what the model's doing is it's giving people a fractional ownership of one property, and then through that development process is turning that into direct home ownership over your individual home. In terms of how we finance this, and this is really the key to the model, right? The group is able to control the design outcome because it is controlling the equity that's going into the project, right? So in terms of a process, we sort of have a 4-step process to financing. The first one is doing a finance assessment on individuals, and everybody in the project goes through that process. I think for this project, we've done a bit over 40 finance assessments of different individuals and couples to get to the 13 people that are part of the project. And that finance assessment is really about understanding where an individual is at and whether or not they've got that capacity to support the project through the development phase. Yeah, like I said, controlling the funding allows collectives to control the built form outcomes and receive their homes at cost. And all of the members of the collective will share the total development cost proportionally. And because this is a co-development model, we secure commercial finance to secure the land and then develop, build the buildings. So we're really subject to the commercial property finance market, which means that all the members will have to invest around 30% of the total cost over the 3.5-year duration of the project. So that's really what we're looking for in that finance assessment stage, is working through what is an individual strategy to be able to support that on the way through. Land acquisition is sort of the next stage, and we're approaching that rapidly at the end of the month. So there are sort of 3 parts to financing these projects. This first part is the land purchase finance. And typically we get a loan of about 50 to 70% LVR, depending on the property, or loan to value ratio. In this case, we've got a 60% loan from Bank Australia. And it's important to note that at this point, the banks will require all the individual joint venturers to be joint and severally liable for that debt. It's one of, I suppose, the realities of this sort of model and commercial finance is that joint venturers will need to be comfortable providing their guarantees for this loan. The second phase is the construction loan, and this is where we get development finance to fund the build. So this second loan is, again, typically around 70 to 75% of loan to cost ratio, so of the total development costs exclusive of GST. And for this loan, this is a refinance, so it might not be the bank that we get to finance that first loan. It could be a different bank. Currently, we're intending that it be Bank Australia. We're getting our land loan from Bank Australia, but it is a separate facility. So, and we do here have some options for different banks around those guarantees in terms of some banks offer us several guarantees, which means that everybody's liability is proportional to their interest in the property or their share of the property. Other banks want joint and several guarantees, which means that everybody's liability is the full amount of the loan. So again, we've got a number of different banks that sort of look at this differently, and depending on the group, we can kind of talk to the banks that have a lending criteria that suits. The final phase is when we've finished the project and we go through what's called a partition process, and that creates these different individual titles. This is at the point where then we have to pay back that development finance loan, and a lot of people will be getting home loans at that point. For people that need to get a home loan at this point, and their strategy isn't to sell another property and pay out their proportion of the bank debt in cash, then typically the loan to value ratio is around 55% by this stage. Because at this point, we've completed the buildings, we've realized that development margin, so that we've created that extra value, and because we borrowed about 70% of the costs, that loan to value ratio has come down to about 55%. Now this slide really just talks to the structure. So we really have two different phases to these projects. We have the development phase, and then once we've finished, there's the operational phase. So the development phase is really around building the community. And what we have is a special purpose vehicle land co, or the landowner, which owns the land. And that acts as a bear trustee, or basically a manager for the SPV joint venture, which is a tax partnership. And then we have the joint venturers, and the joint venturers have a proportional interest in the joint venture. And one of the other keys to this model, and why it's a little bit different, is that through that joint venture, each joint venturer has one vote on the management committee, and all the decisions about the project are made via the management committee. So they're either a simple majority or a special majority, and that's how individuals stay in control of the project, through this management committee structure. The other entity that's involved in these projects is a SPV DevCo, or the developer. So we set up another entity which basically has the job of delivering the buildings to the landowner or the joint venturers. And the property collectors team is involved in managing that. And that's one of the key ways that we've managed to get banks to give us good funding deals on these types of projects, because banks like the fact that there's a team of people that have that experience, particularly during the build phase, to deliver the buildings. So that's the development phase at a super high level. When we finish the buildings, we have the subdivision occur, and then really we're in to the operational phase, which is really around managing the community. So these three entities, the land co, the dev co, and the joint venture partnership, really they exist to build the buildings and deliver the buildings. Once the buildings are completed, we go through a process of just winding up those entities. So they've done their job. And what you then have is you have individual titles for the homes that have been created. And then we'll have an owner's corp, which will have all of the common properties sitting in it. And that will take care of the legal governance around the management of the real estate assets. And the group is going through a process around exploring whether or not a co-op structure might be a good structure to then manage all the social governance items. So that's more around managing the community over time, because an owners corporation is not really set up to manage sort of the social agreements amongst the group. So in terms of the model, it is a very participatory process. Like I said, all of the members of the collective have a interest in the property, and that gives each member the beneficial ownership of the land and a vote on the management committee. The decisions are made by a majority or special majority. And the table on the right there is a very high level overview of our plan of work, which we've adapted from the Royal Institute of British Architects. And it's the development process that we run, and it's governed by endorsement gates that enable participatory decision making, but also provide the property collectives team with enough flexibility to deliver the project efficiently. So, you know, there's 7 gates, as you can see them there, right through from acquiring the site through to gate 7, which is operation. And we're really in this phase now. So the strategic vision has been, and the strategic definition has been defined. And we have a early concept design, and we're exploring some additional scenarios around that. So it is very early on in the process.
Can I make a comment there, Tim?
Yep. Yep.
In terms of the participatory process, it is working very well for us. And in addition to Tim's mentioned votes and things, and we do that on all the financial stuff and the technical stuff for the joint venture, but also within the community, we are working with a consent model where basically all of the decisions have to be either agreed to by everybody or not, definitely not disagreed to by anybody. So and this is working really well for us. So sometimes it takes time to talk things out and to find that position that everybody is happy with. But that's really modelling the way the community is going to work in the future. So there's the process is participatory right through from the financial through to all of the different decisions and judgments that the community is making as well.
Thanks, Ross. Yeah. So this slide, I won't go into it too long, but this is just a summary of all the projects, apart from Eltham, that we've put together using this model. The ones in grey are the ones that we've finished. And we've actually just got practical completion of our project in North Melbourne, which is pretty exciting. And we've got Union Street in Brunswick finishing in October. Clarendon Street in Thornbury will be finished in July. And we've just got preferred builders for the West Brunswick and the Island Street project. And these are just a few photos of previous projects. So this is the first project we did under this model in St George's Road in Northcote. And there's some internal shots. This is the second project under this model in Clark Street in Northcote as well. Again, some internal shots. Third project, we finished in Streddle Street in Thornbury, which was six townhouses. And this is the fourth project that we finished in Barclay Street in St Kilda. And this was seven dwellings. And this is a site we're about to start building on. It's next to the Westwick Eco Village in West Brunswick. And we're building 10 apartments here, with which we've managed to achieve an average 8.3 NAFAs rating on these apartments. So they're very high performance. And that's a render of the project. And I suppose I'm just showing this one because in terms of, I suppose, the vision of this group, you know, this block of land is much smaller than Eltham. It's about 1,300 square meters. And this group was a group of sort of two sort of friendships groups that have come together and sort of expanded, and they were really keen on having a communal open space. So this project, because of its size, doesn't really share any sort of internal communal space in terms of built form communal space, but this group was really keen to have that shared garden. So you can sort of see that in the middle of the building. So the next few slides are really just photos about the property itself. And if you haven't managed to get down to the property, we are having a meet and greet on Sunday at 11 on site. So yeah, feel free to let us know in the chat if you'd like to come along. We can send you a Eventbrite for you to register for that. But in terms of location, I mean, the site is a mixed-use zone site, and it's really well located in what council call the Eltham Gateway. So it's adjacent to the Eltham Leisure Centre, and you know, a short ride, walk, or possibly drive to the actual Eltham Village shopping centre itself. I think it's about under a K away from the train station to the north. The site is 6,632 square meters, and it is quite an irregular shape, as you can see. It's sort of like an L-shaped block, and that sort of green area to the west, you can see, is Diamond Creek. This slide is showing what the current site plan is. So there are quite a few existing structures on the site. Probably the you know, most recognizable or most important structures are the landscape design studio and then the shop and the cafe. And our intention is to keep most of those buildings and retrofit them. And then in the middle of the site, there is a heritage studio and a heritage shed as well. And there is a heritage overlay over that part of the site. So we do need to be very respectful of those buildings. And then in the southeast, there's a number of sheds and sort of like a working nursery, which the current owner has been owning and occupying for a number of years. So these are pictures of the current sort of landscape office and cafe. And we're working through a few different scenarios at the moment around the actual cafe, and the cafe is the one sort of front and center in this image, around whether the best move for the community is to have that space as a common house for the community to enjoy, or to retrofit that as residential spaces. So that's one of the things that we're exploring at the moment. This is a picture to the south of the current landscape office. And I think why this is an interesting image is you can start to sort of see the slope of the land from the street to the south of the site. The current buildings have some really beautiful features, including these recycled trusses. And this is the back of the landscape office looking towards the neighbour, which is a commercial property. You'll see that there's here quite a significant retaining wall separating some formal gardens to a sort of a second car park on the site. And you start to get a sense here of just how green and lush the current garden setting is. This is the car park as you're sort of heading, sort of in the middle of the site, heading towards the south. And here we're sort of getting to the elbow of the site as it sort of dog legs off to the east. And you'll see there's a nursery and a nursery shed, potting shed. This photo, you can kind of get a sense of just how deep the site is from the street. This is where the site sort of kicks out at the elbow. This is the nursery and the nursery shed, and that gabled roof building you can see in the background is one of the neighbours, which is also a commercial property. This is Ross in full flight at a site meeting last year, and a few of the other joint venturers. There's Nari, Caroline, Teresa. I can't remember what Teresa's partner's name is. Do you guys remember?
No, I don't remember.
And then Anne. Now this is down towards sort of the southern edge of the site. So, you know, it's probably the top, I don't know, 3/4 of the site is quite developed and quite manicured. But down towards the south of the site, it does drop off. There's a lot of opportunity for us to enhance the landscaping in that part of the site. So this is sort of that threshold area where, you know, the current owners have kind of let the site go a bit, I suppose. This is, yeah, sort of towards the middle of the site, looking down towards the southern boundary.
And that's Henry and Balthazar.
That's Henry and Balthazar. Yeah.
Both children who will be moving into the
project. Yep. And you'll see that water catchment there. There's currently a couple of sort of stormwater ponds in the south of the site, and you know, part of the process is us working through whether or not to retain them, or whether to come up with a different stormwater solution to release some of that space for other uses. This is sort of this current central sort of lawn garden area. And this mud brick building that you see on the right hand side is the Heritage Studio, which is actually not that old. It was built sort of in the 70s, I believe, but it's still on the Heritage Register.
It was built by a teenage boy, I think 16 years old at the time, and he's in the family that did the Montsalvat artist colony. So yeah, but it's a lovely building.
You're nodding your head, Natalie. I can see you're familiar with the building.
Yeah, very familiar with the building. I've been going there a long time. It's very special to me. And at Eltham High, us old school people are really happy that this building was built by a boy who was going through Eltham High. I think it was for a woodwork assignment or something like that. He went ahead and built a house. Quite inspirational.
Hey.
If a teenage boy can do it, we all can.
Yeah, that's right.
Clearly an overachiever. Yeah. Yeah, so this is what was the cafe, and the group is considering making this the common house at the moment, and it features a mezzanine. So that sort of picture on the right hand side is sort of from the top of the stairs looking down into you know, part of the what was a cafe and a homeware store. These photos of a kitchen. So between the two buildings, there's sort of like a service area with this fairly dated kitchen and a couple of toilets and a shower. This is a picture of the mezzanine in the cafe homeware store. And this is that studio that the teenager built Again, I suppose we're working through what our options are for this space, but it does seem probably the most likely outcome is that it is retained as a communal space.
And the other nice thing at the moment is that the current tenants are in the process of moving, are pretty much moved out of those spaces now. We were just looking at. So if you come along on Sunday, you'll see the spaces. You get a much better sense of the volumes, because all the furniture and the gift shop stuff is not there anymore.
Yeah, 100%. Now this is towards the sort of southwestern corner. There's a bit of a productive garden there at the moment, and yeah, so hopefully those photos give you a bit more of a sense of the property itself. In terms of program, these are the milestones that we're aiming for, and I suppose I'll just call out probably the main ones. We're anticipating that we will achieve a planning permit at Gate 3B in around 2023, which sounds like a long time off. We are being, I suppose, a little bit conservative. We know Nillumbik not necessarily the fastest council going around, so we're anticipating that it might be quite a lengthy process. But we are looking to lodge in around the middle of this year, in the end of June, and then that process taking a bit over 12 months. And then we're looking to commence construction in August 24 and then complete in August 25. So it's not going to be tomorrow, unfortunately. It's a bit of a process, but that's the timing that we're aiming for. This slide, I won't go through it, but I sort of talked a bit about the plan of work, you know, a little bit earlier in the presentation, and this slide just gives you a bit more detail around, you know, how that plan of work really works as you move through to different gates, what the objectives are in each of the gates, and what outputs that we're looking to deliver, but then also right down the bottom as well, you know, what are those key joint venture endorsement points that the group will be endorsing as we sort of move through this process. And again, you know, we're fairly early in this process. We're really looking to wrap up the concept design phase in April. So in terms of reference design, just to put this in some context, really we started off with some feasibility studies when the site was, we were looking at it and assessing its suitability for what the group wanted to do. And, you know, we had to come up with a reference design to inform our financial feasibility to then proceed to acquire the site. So Gate 0 really then was about acquiring the site and actually creating the collective or the co-housing group. We then moved through gates 1A and 1B, which is around strategic vision and strategic definition, and we created a development brief. So that development brief was about capturing all of the individual members, what their personal requirements were for their dwellings, but then also looking at what they wanted from a communal space perspective. And we've actually just finished a process whereby the group sort of reinterrogated their requirements for the collective or common spaces, and really just refine that brief, and now in the process of delivering that to the architect. So then we're going to move through to gate 1C, which is the concept plan. So in terms of the feasibility, we did explore 4 different schemes and reference design, incorporating apartments and townhouses. So we looked at, between 16 to 26 homes. But when we went through and purchased the site, we did it on the basis of 21 homes with a predominantly townhouse typology. Gates 1A and 1B, in terms of the development brief, we've, as I said, we're sort of moving through that process right now, and it is a bit of a living document that will evolve as new members join and input into it. And from a concept plan perspective, we have commenced that with our architect's DKO. The reference design will need to change to suit the requirements of the existing and new members as we sort of move through this process. So these slides were DKO's first crack at a master plan, so concept A. And as I said, we are working through a number of different scenarios to make sure that, that design response, or that master plan concept, hits the mark for everybody in terms of striking that right balance between communal space and private space. So you see that all of the existing buildings are retained in this scheme. There's a conversion in the lofts into residential in this version. And then we have sort of some new buildings to the south of the landscape office. We have some treehouse townhouses sort of in the southeastern corner. And then we have a couple of what DKO are dubbing multi-generational dwellings in the southwest corner.
They're not actually tree houses though.
No, they're not actually tree houses. But I suppose the main concept or the main thought process from DKO in coming up with this approach was really pedestrianising the whole of the site and creating a central sort of access point to the heart of the site through the existing dwellings, and then maintaining that heritage studio and building an annex to it and an annex to the shed as common spaces. So they also introduced this concept of having a sort of a raised walkway to the south of the site to provide disability access and better access to the dwellings to the south, but also allow those dwellings to have north-facing private open space. In terms of car park access, the vision is to keep the car park on the north of the site intact, but then reduce the extent of the car park sort of in the centre of the site. And this slide talks to, I suppose, their first thoughts around the communal space, and there was some logic from their perspective around keeping that central to provide make that sort of the heart of the site by making the heritage studio and the heritage shed sort of the key communal spaces. Like I mentioned before, though, we're sort of in the process of working through whether that's enough space for the community and whether or not a better move for the group is to have that cafe space as communal space as well. This slide just talks to the private open space for each of the dwellings, and this is an important component of what will be the town planning application. We do have minimum requirements that council is going to want to see in terms of secluded private open space, and obviously, north-facing private open space is the most desirable design outcome. And these are a couple of very early sort of sketches that the architects put together. This one's looked at looking at the southwest, there's 2 dwellings in the southwestern corner. And this is sort of their early thoughts around, you know, the buildings to the south of the existing landscape office. And a couple of architectural references. So this slide's here because this is, I suppose, our reference design for acquisition. And you'll see that it's actually not too far off those concepts that I just took you through from DKO in terms of the areas of the site which are developable. The main real difference here is, you know, in this version, we had the brown shaded area was the shared common space. We had the whole of the landscape office as 1 dwelling, and we also had the heritage studio as a residential dwelling. But this scheme basically then informed our financial feasibility, and we're sort of working off this scheme until the group completes that concept plan phase. And then we'll sort of update this in line with what the preferred concept is for the group. So, you know, this reference design had 7 different dwelling types. And as you can see, they were sort of dubbed, you know, type A, B, C, D, E, F, G there. And really they aligned to the different size of dwellings. And in terms of the numbers of units, you can see that there was one 4-bedroom, we had 7 3-bedroom large type Bs, 6 large 2-bedrooms type Cs, 3 type Ds, which are 2-bedroom small, an E and an F, which were both 1-bedrooms, and then the type G was a small 3-bedroom, and there was 2 of those. So 21 dwellings in total, and basically, you know, there's 8 dwellings left, given that we've got the 13 joint venturers. So on this scheme, there was 1 4-bedroom available, 3 3-bedrooms, 3 large 2-bedrooms, and 1 of the 1.5 beds. But probably the most important number here is this total amount of internal living space or net sellable area, from this sort of technical development term, of 2,260 square meters. So really, you know, the configuration of these dwellings will move around as that concept design evolves. But from a financial feasibility perspective, what we're trying to achieve is to end up at around this 2,260 square meter mark. This slide just talks to the forecast project numbers per unit type. So, and this aligns to this reference design that I've just sort of taken you through, that pre-acquisition reference design. So I won't go through this in too much detail. Like I said, I'll send this pack out to everybody for them to review, and I'll also send the video recording out. But the way to read this is, if I look at, say, the type B, the 3-bedroom, and I might just draw, then, you know, this number here, 125, relates to the internal living size, so how big those internal living spaces are. We're anticipating a lot size of about 104 square meters. In terms of the costs, the forecast cost for this dwelling is a little bit over $1 million, and of that, 300,000 would need to come in equity, 637,000 would come in debt, and 65,000 would be GST. And the way that we're structuring the project means that that GST would be cash flowed through the development company during the development phase, but then on completion, the joint venturers would need to pay that GST, and they could choose to pay that in cash or via a top up in their home loan. So that's why we've called that out separately, because different people might want to pay for that GST component in different ways. In terms of the gross realised value, we're forecasting that this dwelling would be worth about 1.15 million, which translates to sort of $148,000 difference between your total cost, or around 15%. And again, if you were to get a home loan on completion, and if you were going to pay back your GST in equity, your LVR would be 55%. But if you're going to pay back your GST in debt through getting a slightly higher home loan, that LVR would be 61%. So that's kind of the way to read this table, and the numbers then align to the different dwelling sizes and the different dwelling types. In terms of the cash flow, this then slide talks to the different dwelling types and what the forecast cash flow over the life of the project is per dwelling type. So it does assume that we have 21 members on board. So it will change a bit over the life of the project, given that we've got 13 joint venturers now, and we're looking to take on some more joint ventures over the next 12 to 18 months. But it gives you a sense of, well, the current joint venturers have already made that contribution, and now we're moving into this this phase here. So the strategy with equity contributions is really that we make an equity contribution every 6 months. So we'll constantly be updating the cash flow and giving people an update on what our forecast is for those next contributions, to try and give everybody as much visibility as possible on what's coming up. And then the GST repayment is this payment here, this month 50, which is after completion of the project. This slide here just talks to our assumptions around the actual completed values of the dwellings. There's a lot of jargon here down here, but we've got a bit of a legend so you can sort of interpret those assumptions. But again, they really are related to the different dwelling types and the different sizes of the dwelling. And you can see here what we're assuming the present value of these dwellings are if they were completed today. And one thing to note, I suppose, around gross realised value, so that's what we're assuming the value of these dwellings is in 4 years when we complete the project. You know, this project is a bit different in that it's not the typical sort of development that you're going to see around every corner, but we're feeling very confident in these values because the implicit value of this project is underpinned by, you know, a strata title ownership of your lot, plus either 1 to 2 car spaces in the consolidated car park, shared ownership of communal areas via the owners corporation, and, you know, an ownership position of all of the common house and the heritage buildings. So you're not just paying obviously for your townhouse, and you are also paying for the communal areas that you have access to. And the last point is that, you know, while a strategy will be to create as large lot sizes as possible for the individual dwellings, the reality is that, you know, the communal gardens, excluding the car park, will be around 2,500 square metres. And that will again be shared by all of the members of the collective. So it is a pretty unique proposition. So in terms of next steps and Q&A, really, we are looking for another 8 joint venturers to join over the next 12 to 18 months. And in terms of the process, this slide really just talks to the process that we've been using since we kicked the project off. So step 1 is a joint venture application form. So, after this meeting, I'll send this out to everybody. And this is just an online form. If people are interested in sort of taking that next step and maybe getting involved in the project, we just urge everybody to fill out that application form. And then from that point on, you'll be invited to engage with a few of the current joint venturers. So, Ross and Alistair might want to talk about it, but what the group's done is create a number of different circles. So there's a recruitment circle, a design circle, a steering circle, and each circle is about 5 or 6 members of the group, and they sort of take a lead on different aspects of the project. So, everybody that completes the joint venture application form, then sort of gets introduced to members on the recruitment circle. So we can sort of start that process of getting to know people that are interested in becoming a member. This third step is doing a finance assessment. I mentioned that earlier, and it's a really important part of the process. And that's really to confirm your ability to become a joint venturer. Step 4 is about paying a membership fee. So we have a $1,500 odd application fee. If we go through this process, we do ask everybody to sort of become a member, to sort of show that you're interested in then moving from being a member into becoming a joint venturer. And we have been using the timing of payment of that membership fee to determine the order of selection on dwellings, which will happen post town planning approval. So there is sort of an element of first in, best dressed around the memberships. The 5th step is then for all members are invited to participate in the project meetings with current joint venturers and members. And then, step 6 is then around, moving towards becoming a joint venturer and getting your specific requirements incorporated into the development brief. And then therefore getting incorporated into the concept plans. And the last step obviously is before joining is reviewing the actual legal documentation around becoming a joint venturer. So it is, quite a lengthy process, but it's been designed to be quite thorough. And, that process, I think, has worked quite well for the current members of the group. And, I think the nature of these sorts of projects means that, having a quite structured and fairly lengthy process works well for both parties. There definitely has to be, a fair amount of time spent on from both current joint venturers and potential joint venturers getting to know one another and understanding, what the project's about.
Can I make
Yep.
You finish the slide and then I'll just make a couple of comments.
Yep. So look, last couple of points is really we've got 17 members at the moment, 13 of which are joint venturers. We will be looking for 7 to 8 new joint venturers over the coming, 12 to 18 months. The first step is to complete that joint venture application form. And, depending on how many applications we'll get, I suppose we'll be looking to make some invitations to join maybe in the middle of this year. And that's it, I think, in terms of the slides. Yeah.
Right. Tim, I might just make a couple of comments on the community side of things, because that's, that's what's really important to us as well. We kind of think that you pay the money to join this really great community of people and we throw in a house for nothing, but that's just a difference in emphasis. But the the basis of our community. It's completely non-political and non-ideological, but it's a group of people coming together, and we live in proximity to each other, but there's as much privacy and as much public interaction as you want. And for the interaction between the community, which is really important because we all want to feel that we're part of that, we have the open spaces in our beautiful block, and we have common facilities that we, as Tim said, we own in common. And one of the things that we do in those common facilities is that we invite community members to share meals together. There's no strict timetable for that, but it's definitely co-housing is a thing. It's quite a movement, and one of the things that is really understood about co-housing is that that eating together and just spending that sort of time around the meal is really important to cohesion. So we'll be planning good facilities for that, and our common facilities will also include other things which we're just deciding at the moment, but things which will help us maybe to reduce the necessary size of the houses that we have, and things that will just help us to live together. And the last thing I'll mention there is that our membership step is an important one. So that's that 1,572. That's just a historical number that we all paid. So we've kept that same amount. But you can, paying that and becoming a member gives you the ability to participate in most of our online and face-to-face activities. So you get a chance to get to know us, and we get a chance to get to know you, and that's a really key part to us all sort of building together as a community. If you choose not to join the joint venture, or for some reason you're not offered a position on the joint venture, then that money is fully refundable. But so we, as soon as you make that decision that, look, I'll have a look at this and I'll pay the money, then that's where we all start getting to know each other, and you've got lots of opportunities to interact, which is the way we like it to be. Have you got any comments to make on that, Alistair?
Nothing that pops to mind, Ashley. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's fine. So back to you, Tim, question and answer.
Yeah, sorry, just unmute myself. So, yeah, look, we've lost a few attendees, but I don't know, Natalie and Sandra and Viviana, did you have anything you wanted to ask, or yeah?
Sorry you can't see us. There's two of us here. It's John and Sandra.
Okay. Oh, yes. Okay. How are you?
Yeah, good. Nice to see and meet you all, kind of. But we will be coming on Sunday, so we'll have a chance to have a face-to-face interaction. I'm very familiar with the property already. Spend a lot of time there, and we're local, so we come from Wattle Glen.
Yep.
So we're very keen to have a look and have a bigger discussion and talk some more about the next steps.
Great. Look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
Thank you. And we love sharing meals.
Hey. Pam will be particularly interested in that. She's looking forward to being on the cooking for the group and being part of that. So,
Nice.
I love sharing meals as well, so long as somebody else makes them. So.
Yeah, Viviana or Natalie, did you have anything you want to say? If you don't, that's fine too. Don't feel you'd have to.
Yeah, look, I just want to say hi. And obviously I've come in fairly late and thought I'd completely missed the boat, and I might have, but very excited to know that something like this is happening kind of in my backyard, because I live in Eltham also. And so I do know the space also, but I know where it's situated, and the walking tracks and the accessibility to the township is sensational.
Yeah.
And I just love this area, obviously. And I thought I'd have to move in a city to get something like this I'd sort of looked at some other projects that Nightingales run, and because they also have a bit of a community focus.
Yeah.
And then when I saw this, I thought, oh my gosh, hooray.
You really had to do some detective work to find us too, didn't you, Viv?
I sure did. It was I found you by accident. It was on the community page called Eltham Life, and someone was asking where you could get a cafe that didn't overlook a car park or a main road. And someone posted, oh, what about Lily's on Brougham? And then there was another post saying, no, there's not a cafe anymore. I think it's going to be a co-housing development. And I just saw the word co-housing. And then I started, how do I find out about this? So, yeah. But, anyway, look, I've done what I have to at this stage, and I guess the rest is up to, you know, I understand the concept that obviously you need a spread of demographics to make it work well, and I get that. But anyway, I'm coming along for the ride, hopefully, to be able to join.
Are we going to see you on Sunday, Viv?
Sure. Yep.
Oh, that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting you.
Thanks, Viv. And I'll get back to you by the end of this week on that stuff that you sent through too. So thank you for doing that. I know it's a bit of a pain. But it's part of the process, you see. It's about we've sort of figured if people are willing to fill out the forms, then they're somewhat serious about engaging. So yeah, it's kind of deliberate at the same time.
Yep.
And Natalie, did you want? Or I mean, again, you don't have to say anything, but yeah, I mean, if not, we might call it for a wrap today, but yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that was helpful to see some of those concepts in a picture. I came along a similar path to Viviana and Sandra and John, I think. I'm a local too.
Yeah.
I went to Eltham High and I know that location well. I've been coming to visit it for a long time as a cafe and Lily's on Brougham patron. I was dismayed when I heard they were shutting their doors, and then a friend tipped me off late last year that this property collective existed and was going to develop it as co-housing, and I was like, yeah, because I have also been interested in co-housing for a long time. I've been to visit Murridaka and the one at Mount Tullawobbagong, and like Viviana, I thought I'd have to move in urban to get into a property housing collective in Melbourne, and that's not appealing to me. So I was very excited to see that this is taking place, and I've got a lot of questions, but I might just write them down in detail and come and visit you on Sunday as well and ask them in person. I'll be there with my son.
Lovely.
All right.
Okay. Helen, did you want to make any comments? Helen is on the call, and she is actually in that member category, and she's and Helen has been as a member, but she's been really a key participant in a lot of the things that we've been doing over the last several months. And so that's sort of a great example of how that sort of member level really works. So did you have any comments that you wanted to make, Helen?
Just that it's been really worthwhile me sitting through the presentation again. This is probably my 4th time or something, I think, Tim, but I never get tired of your voice, so cheer up.
Thanks,
and I'm still cottoning on to things that I missed. And of course, I'm still in WA, but I fly back to Queensland tomorrow. I will eventually turn up in Melbourne. But the big news for me is that I'm actually keen enough that my house goes on the market. I'm talking to real estate agents tomorrow when I get back into Brisbane. So
congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's all starting to happen.
Yeah, great.
And I'm a member. I've paid my fee, haven't I, Tim? Or Ross?
You are a member. You're
that's
definitely
what I thought.
Yeah.
I'm sort of part way in there. So I guess the thing to say is hang in there, because, you know, it took a while. I know exactly what you mean, Viviana. We are an interesting demographic, but we're very useful people. So
yeah. No, that's great. Thanks, Helen.
I have to say, when it asked my age, I was going to make a comment when I had to put my age, and then I said, but I feel like a 35-year-old. And
yeah, you did. I like that. Yeah, and I get that too.
The way the rest of society sort of looks at you and says, "Oh, you're a bit older." Like, no, I'm not. You don't know me.
Yeah, that's the way. One thing that I like to say near the end of these is that soon we will have the land, but the existing owner of the land will become a tenant. So one half of the block will still be Robert Boyle Landscaping. So if you want to visit the site, definitely feel free to do so. But please let Tim or me or one of us know that you intend to do it. And then obviously Sunday, just turn up at 11 o'clock. And if you are on site, but basically the landscaping side of the site is not, it's a business, it's somebody else's business. So we don't go in there and we don't walk around there. They get really edgy if we do. So just a bit of housekeeping.
Yep. Yes, I think they've been pleasantly surprised maybe around the level of interest in the co-housing project. Robert and Wendy. Yeah, but look, to be honest, they've been really good.
They're good guys, yeah.
Really, given how high maintenance we've been as a group in terms of wanting access.
Yeah, and they remain our neighbours, by the way. So that's they're good guys. We get along well with them.
Yeah. All right. Well, Natalie and Viviana and Sandra and John, you're all across the start time for the catch up on Sunday. Yeah.
Yes.
Good one. All right.
11 a.m. you said?
11 a.m. 11 to 12. So yeah. And bring your duck.
I love a duck.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Lovely to meet you all, and speak to you later.
Thank you. That was really helpful. Thanks a lot.
Well done.